Hi Leo, welcome to my channel. Leo, as I mentioned in the Solar Eclipse Initiation video and podcast, on 10th of June at 6:52 a.m. Eastern Time, Sun and Moon will come together as a solar eclipse at 19 degree 47 minutes of Gemini, along with North Node, to plant a new seed. We would have 6 planets physically parallel and anti-parallel in the sky with the karmic nodes, like the whole universe is conspiring to bring something to pass. In this moment of eclipse, after a long period of reconsideration and some amount of confusion, we are meant to see things clearly. It may not yet be time to start anew or announce, or external messaging might still be delayed after 22nd of June, because the ruler of the eclipse will be retrograde till 22nd of June, but the initiation of the new thinking, the new mind begins. A new thought form is born, and for you that begins a new phase of hopes, dreams, visions and social network. North Node is where we stumble, we get up, and yet we start again, cause it's our path of forward growth of this lifetime, our karma of this lifetime, and we must grow through and grow towards it. Every 19 years, we evolve a specific part of our life through leaps and bounds. This is the last 6 months of this karmic growth in the area of your life which has to do with social network, friends, connections, gains, rewards and social contribution. That's where we would be planting a new seed this month. This mingles with the lunar eclipse theme of release of old beliefs, holding back your God-given talents in some ways, creative ideas and gifts that you have been given, and allow the world to see you, receive you. It's the period to boldly set free the child within you, as your unique talents, creations, creative ideas, spiritual pursuits are not withheld for yourself anymore, but rather shared for the benefit of all on a platform. Today we would not so much focus on just this one event alone, but more of what these 6 months are supposed to teach us. What kind of evolution our mind is going to undergo, where one kind of thought form or belief is being released and a new one which would serve us for the next 19 years is born. We never stop growing, but Gemini eclipses take our mind and knowledge for a leap in matter of days and months, which would normally take us many years to come to pass. If you're old enough, this kind of growth you would have experienced back in 2002. Your axis of pursuit of happiness is being activated, as over the course of next 6 months, one adventure ends and another one begins. As promised in part 1 of this video or podcast, which is the overview of the solar eclipse which I published a few days back, in this part 2, we would go deeper into all this specific to your sign Leo, as it's relevant for the rest of the year for you. My name is Charu and I'm your host on this journey. So let's begin. Leo, let's begin from the start, which is the new beginning, the solar eclipse. Leo, the 10th of June solar eclipse initiates a new phase in your social aspirations, in networks, friends, visions, and dreams for you that you have for your life. We plant a new seed which has come after some reconsideration, some back and forth, to strengthen our ties with the group, moving out of our solo mission to join a platform of like-minded people for larger impact and for larger gains. We are finding our tribe and starting a new mission to create something of much larger impact versus keeping our God-given gifts, our creative gifts just to ourselves. It initiates a phase of networking, making contacts, group activities, reaching out to others socially and professionally. We come into ourselves, so as to speak, while so far we might have been hiding with our talents or creative ideas kept under the wraps. This is just a beginning, and many changes will come on the way to full manifestation of this over the course of next 6 months. But the aim is to grow socially, have an impact, a vision, a dream, economic gains, an impact on the collective using your skills and your words. At the very least, we become more socially active. It starts the process to be out and about with friends if possible, or being active online on platforms, or even starting a new network presence online through a site or social media. Your hopes and dreams are in focus, and the process to make it happen is what you would be busy with by either joining a group of like minded people who specialize or are expert in the field of your interest, creating a group of those people, skilled friends, possibly younger generation friends with whom you'll get a steep upward learning curve on the pulse of the society and the trends. Social contribution becomes an important part of us and becomes a source of growth for you. We want to leave an impact, we want to leave a legacy which benefits others and is commercially viable. The legacy creates gains. We are trying to create a platform which is not just beneficial, informative, full of knowledge, but it also creates gains. Sometimes instead of starting totally from a new place, we start placing new value on the work we had done in the past, but we were not bringing it out to the audience. We start recognizing its value and putting it out there. We start launching it to people in a network and a platform which is gainful, full of social aspiration and impact. We would also aim to create gains from wealth. This is the house of investment. The money that comes from the money that you have earned through a service now being invested and grown, making the money work for us through clever ideas. This is the house of gains. This is the house of big wealth. This is the house of you positioning your creative idea through connections, through a collective group which is of like-minded people, and then creating a fan following of sort or a group of sorts which has a common inspiration, which has a common goal, a common vision of the world, and a common thinking process. Your value as a social person, as a friend, your social contribution becomes the focus of growth here. Friendships become the source of the next chapter of growth for you. Connections become the source of next level of growth for you. Your value and the value that you create for the society is being enriched here. Your contribution to the society is being enhanced here. Very valuable connections are made of friendship networks. They become much more valuable as they also become business partnerships. We move from relationships being hot and heavy to more fun and light-witted. Relationships become more intellectual versus serious and deep. How we connect with our friends and our network, it shifts. This is a once in 19-year growth in your house of friendships and connections. You will be stimulated. You are stimulated by unconventional ideas, a new vision of what life could be, a progressive vision of our future, of your dreams, of your ideals, which are being reborn here. And from that place of higher thinking, we plant a seed of gains, of wisdom, of social impact and influence, and of possible humanitarian impact. A new wish, a new vision, a new dream is born. Sometimes a very significant friend or a person of influence or a connection which is very, very fated enters our life at this time. And they might already be in your life, but we start looking at them in a different light. They become part of our future karma. This vision, dream, or friendship, or network, or platform initiation was possibly first discussed also in January and then possibly worked around early April. But now in June, through some back and forth, it would be coming out in a reformed format. There are still some shifts and changes which are planned till 22nd of June, post which it's going to be ripe to go ahead. This last happened to you around mid of 2002. So if you're old enough to remember, look back what shifted in terms of your long-term vision of your life. What changes did you make? What important friendships, connections, and leaps you made in your connections, in your tribe, in your vision around mid of 2002? Closest years where this kind of shift might have come would be end of 2011, though the polarities are right opposite. So it's possible that something might have started in 2011, which is ending now, or an adventure which was starting in 2011, it is coming to an end because you're moving towards something different. It's possible that 2011, something was given to you, which is now being released, and now that network, that vision is taking place of it. You could review for parallel themes both end of 2011 and mid of 2002 for you. Sometimes a creative idea or product of love which was planted end of 2011, it comes for fruition. A creative project gets over, a passion, a love, something that was holding our heart in some ways, that comes to fruition, and with that a new quest begins. Although all Leo benefit from this fresh energy infusion into social houses because it's in positive aspect with you, but especially Leos with rising sun or moon around 20 degree of Leo, you could take 3 degrees before and after, so around 17 degree to 23 degree of Leo would feel this infusion in the most positive, will benefit the most out of this. If you're a Leo sun, that is around 11th of August born Leo sun, 3 days before or after 11th of August, they would benefit the most out of this solar eclipse. Let's briefly discuss the Mercury retrograde because this eclipse is coming with its ruler in retrograde mode, which means there are some reconsiderations which are happening, and that is also happening right now. While this whole process will pan out over the course of next 6 months, there are some reconsiderations, some reviews, a bit of confusion, which will go on till 22nd of June, considering Mercury retrograde. This is the period when possibly we need to review our existing social circle. Review who your friends are, who or what are consuming your energy. This is also the house of sibling. So the relationship with our sibling, the give and take in relationship with our sibling would also be transforming. There could be some confusion, some information gap, or gossip in your network, which might be fed to you, but it's not real, and it would be coming to your attention. There is a little bit of misleading information taking rounds, and we need to be careful of that during this period till 22nd of June. We learn during this time through a different perspective who our supporters are, who we want to keep or not in our inner circle, as you will be detoxing your social association, social media strategy, the friends, the amount of time social media is taking from you, and also reviewing your social aspirations during this period till 22nd of June. It's the time to deep dive into what are your social aspirations, excluding influences of everybody outside. What is truly your vision for your life? What are your hopes? What are your dreams? Away from those of your circle, away from the society, away from your friends. After 10th, we would work forward on those. Work forward on the connections with people who share our vision. We would clear any miscommunication or misunderstanding with our network and look at apt ways to get our new vision forward. The hopes, the dreams, we'll start researching forward and working forward on them. There could be an actual platform which you might be launching, and there might be some rework on that, and after 10th you'll start working forward instead of looking back. It's the time when we look at the ways to get our messaging out there, using a platform, finding the right medium which best suits us to get our messaging out. We look for reliable counterparts, friends or partners who will be part of our tribe, who would work together on our vision. And we'll start working forward without fully maturing the ideas till 22nd of June, without setting things in stone till 22nd of June. There might be actual media, network or platform launches which will be planned, for which some rework might be required till 22nd of June as we put final touches to it. We would also review big gains, our investment gains. Is the money we have in the bank account, is that working for us or not? Is it invested in the right direction? And if there are any big wealth ideas which you might be missing on, you'll review them, reform them, work on them, research on them. But it's a good idea to hold on to investments till 22nd of June, or leave some amount of leeway for error or review it thoroughly if you have to make them before 22nd of June. Mercury rules your money houses, so monetary matters are definitely a key focus of review for you till 22nd of June. We last had Mercury retrograde here in this area of your life in May or June of 2015. Now everything is not going to be the same, but Mercury retrograde lessons are definitely carried forward because it's a loop, it's a sequence of growth. So if there were issues that were unresolved from May or June of 2015, if there were connections, friendships, misunderstandings, unresolved things with siblings, from May or June of 2015, they would still carry forward to the current moment. They would come back for resolution. Sometimes people, acquaintances, friends, they come back from that time to surface. Now there was no eclipse though at that time, around May or June of 2015 in the same area. So the leap that you're about to take, the shift that you're about to make is much bigger than it was at that time. But the lessons that you might have learned at that time, they would be very meaningful and helpful to you in the current moment. So it's beneficial for you to find that through emails, remembering it through chats or through photographs, any of those things that ring some bells on what happened at that time, linked to friends, linked to networks, linked to social media, linked to siblings, especially elder sibling. Solar eclipses does not come alone. The new star always comes with a closure, a release. A solar eclipse comes with a lunar eclipse, a closure, a release, which could even be a stimulus for this new start, this new vision. The lunar eclipse that happened on 26th of May would impact us till end of this year around 19th of November. It is prompting a completion of a creative project, a business idea, a passion, a phase of focus possibly on somebody who you love or you have been taking care of, a phase of focus on children, love, hobbies, which might be coming for a release and closure. It might also be prompting us to make some use of the God-given gifts by releasing some blockage we might psychologically have in using them. the creative spiritual gifts or hobbies that we have. Instead of holding on to them, we would be prompted to make use of them, bring it to everybody. It could be a logical conclusion of us having worked on some passion of ours, or the end of a phase of making sacrifices in some ways for another, somebody who we have been taking care of or giving selflessly to. And now it is time to focus on your social aspirations, your networks, your vision, and your friends, where you bring those talents, creative and spiritual gifts, or hobbies, or talents which you've been holding on to so far, and unplugging them, sort of. Sometimes something important comes to pass in life of our children, through which they move to a more independent stage, and that becomes a ground where we move forward from, because the duties that we had to them in some ways have been fulfilled. And we become the student of life again, and life becomes a playing field where we showcase our art to others, our work to others. Sometimes ending of a love affair or release of an affiliation with a person triggers this, because we essentially are making space by release of something else that our heart was caught up in. And with that, universe creates space which it can then fill up with possibilities of something higher and different. This is a spiritual release, a release of joy, of passions. We in some ways release the hold over our own talents and gifts, and relieve what was blocking our childlike joy, releasing the blockage to enthusiastic self-expression, which might have been suppressed for some reason, because of some obligatory reasons. We take a journey possibly back in time, when things were lighter, when fun came much easier. They could also be old hobbies or creative ideas which we have missed out on or not made use of, and they come back up and we reinitiate them, because we are reigniting a part of us, bringing it to life in the present, which could not live in the past somehow for some reason. This eclipse also calls for balance, a balance between wanting to create something that we love and creating something that is useful to the audience you're creating for. You'll be prompted to create something more useful for the audience you're creating for, versus purely creating for yourself for the love of it. The full information of what is ending, what is prompting this new start, what is the trigger of it, what are you getting free from, and what is being used to set free your house of self-expression, love, children, passion, hobbies, would not be fully become clear till early September, when a fated event in the first 10 days of September would prompt this release from bondage, will prompt this spiritual release for you to move forward and work on your own goals, work on your own social aspirations, and work on your gains. This release will be felt by all of you, but the early degree Leos, which is around 5 degree of Leos, 3 degrees before or after, so 2 to 8 degree of Leo, might have already experienced some event. The July born Leo sun essentially might have already experienced an event around it. But most of you are going to feel it, and then an event in September, in my view, will physically prompt that release of blockage. Like some sort of cord is cut, some sort of hold that things had over your joy, over your creative process. That hold is let go. We're going to talk about the do's and don'ts of the next 6 months as well, because these are the last 6 months of Gemini and Sagittarius nodes, how does that influence you? What are the do's and the don'ts? What is the road to success that we are laying down? Just remember one thing, this is something which you have not tried before. This is a part of your chart getting activated after 19 years. So you are in the process of trying that you have not tried before. So be gentle with yourself, because we stumble many times on the road to this. North Node is where we do stumble down and get up again. There are multiple trials, multiple ways of doing things. So be gentle with yourself as you try to do the untried. The first thing in this, in do's and don'ts, is connect, network, communicate, create plans for materially significant gains from your work. Hunt for the right platform to launch your work. Bring to the world your life's work. Don't hide it. Create the right connection, create the right platform, communicate it, create a plan to monetize it. Second thing is your network would include exotic people, people who don't really go by the norm. They would be clever, pretty intelligent people, but people who break the social rules. They would come with their own quirks. They will come with their own quirky, unique ideas. This is not going to be, it's a different fit. It's just a different fit. Similarly, wealth will come through connections and friends who are different from you. They're possibly foreign or living in foreign countries. We're sort of going through a steep learning curve when it comes to connections and networking. You might need to choose social activity for growth and even social causes over personal interest, over time for love, personal passions, hobbies, funds, parties, and possibly having children or spending time with them. Focus would be more on building connections and creating gains versus focusing on your personal life. It's just that kind of time. You could express your selfless love or even spirituality through your children, but it would not be where your focus would be in terms of time spent, and that's not where your growth will come from. Growth will come from building connections, being out there, putting yourself out there. Aim higher. You are leaving a legacy. This is the process of putting the seeds of a legacy. When you think you've got it, just lift the target even higher. Pick a social cause, a social need that your gifts can fulfill, which has some practical application. This is not theoretical or even psychologically just purely helping. This is more than that. This has a practical application for a larger set of people. Friends are important right now. Romance, maybe not so much, but friends will be very important right now. If you have been busy with children or drained by taking care of parents in some ways, or somebody has been dependent on you or loved ones, and that has taken you away from the social scene, this would be a complete shift, because you sort of are joining back the land of the living in some ways, even if it's virtually. But you'll have to get yourself out of that social inertia and get active socially. And once you get in it, you'll immediately see the growth. You'll immediately see yourself coming back in your element in some ways. Learning new social media skills and the skills to connect with the new generation would be important. It will be very much the part of your steep learning curve to go through the social media. Even taking courses in that direction could benefit you greatly. How to monetize social media platforms, what kind of skills you need on social media, skills to connect with the new generation, what kind of applications are they using, what kind of tools are being used currently. Knowing all of those things would be important in terms of your learning curve. As an artist, as a creative, remember, holding back your work from others is a little bit selfish. It's almost karmic or fated for you to make sure that your work sees the day of the light socially. You're compelled to put it out there. Put it out there in the universe instead of waiting for perfection. done right now is better than holding back for perfection. We'll have to put our work out there instead of waiting for it to come to some standards or some perfection. Get clued back into the current trends of the field of your interest. You might need to come to terms with the trends, the creative or spiritual interests that you have. Get curious about it. Stay flexible about your vision, because things might have moved in a different direction and they might be moving quite fast. They might be evolving quite fast. So you might need to keep up with the trend in some way. Search for engaging or lively models of sharing your work in a way that sparks curiosity of the listeners or the viewer. You'll have to find interesting ways which are probably snippy or something. It's like quick and just grabs the attention of the listener or the viewer. Some new ways of communicating your gifts. You'll have to find those. Communicate with large set of group or join a group. You have to it's a skill as well to address a large group of people. And again, you will learn that skill during this time, including diverse set of people in your circle, people of different view, people who have a shared vision but could have different views. And you have to stay flexible to hear them out. It's the time when we include the views of others in our work, and we have to stay flexible to take that input in. We are going to be sharing ourselves and our vision with others. It is not just going to be about ourselves anymore. So the opinion of your fan group, of your network, of the others, of the society, of the people outside of you is going to be part of your creative process. It has to be included as a part of your creative process. It's very different when we create art for the sake of creating art. We're not creating art for the sake of creating art. We're creating art for a set of people, for a group of people. So it has to be sort of customized to them. Your skills and knowledge are unique. We need to be comfortable. We need to sort of gain some confidence in them. You already have that skill. You already have that knowledge. But it's the expression of it that you need to get a little bit more comfortable in your skin about. It's people like you who find unusual and simple approaches to solve a common problem you see in the society. So have trust in the solution you're bringing to the table. Learn to be comfortable in being the different one, because it's the people who are different. They are the ones who bring something to the table, something of value to the table. Your cause or vision could include the intent of a social or humanitarian cause, or even a political issue. It's a social thing that you're trying to help. It helps a larger set of people, but it might be also linked to a humanitarian cause. And you might be sort of creating an awareness on a political issue or awareness on a humanitarian issue through your platform. Participate in creating this new world that's beginning to form around us after a period of being away from it all. This is a world of ideas, it's a world of conversations, it's a world of open knowledge sharing, and you are about to become a part of it, a center of it. Reach for that dream that seemed impossible as you sort of get the impetus to reach out of your comfort zone. These themes are very much consistent with the Saturn-Uranus square themes, which is also becoming exact on 14th of June and would work in parallel with these eclipses for the next 6 months. Uranus is in your house of career, so your job or whatever you plan to do, it's going to be very different. It is not going to be standard. Uranus is setting you free from an old model of work. It's prompting you to seek unique careers, while Saturn is helping you create a new model of connecting with others, a new foundation, a new rule book of how to connect with others. What is the barriers where do we have to say no, yes in our relationship and in our obligations to others. It's a very critical transit which is going to be playing out in parallel with these eclipses for the next 6 months. I covered Saturn square Uranus for your sign in the 2021 video because it's the year-long transit, but it's becoming exact again on 14th of June, so you'll be well placed to revisit that. I'll leave the link in the description and in the comments as well for you to access it. Lastly, I wanted to cover the Neptune retrograde. That is the pink elephant in the room we have. Neptune is going retrograde towards end of June, and it's making a hard aspect with this new start. It's making a hard aspect with the solar eclipse, and there are certain realities that will be revealed to us which are important to us in this new start towards the end of the month. In the pursuit of your ideal vision and dreams, Neptune in your house of joint partnerships and relationships is creating a hindrance. A personal problem is going to be highlighted which needs to be handled before we get to that dream, before we get to that vision. Neptune has been in your house of joint resources since about 2011, and it has reduced the boundaries you have with others. While it might have let in many inspiring relationships, even friendships which are soul friendships, spiritual growth through friends, unorthodox influences might have come in your life, but it also lowers your boundaries and lets some not so clean influences and people in who take your relationship and your openness for an unfair ride. They create confusion over joint matters, and it's not just friends who would do that, not just people in society. This could be a sibling, a relative who might have been encroaching upon your boundaries because your boundaries are lower, and they have been lower for some time. They would be creating confusion over joint financial matters, or it would be keeping you busy handling power issues with others. Or we might be handling sometimes our own complexes because Neptune brings nefarious factors out on the surface, not just outside of ourselves but also inside of ourselves. It brings our own complexes which weigh us down also up in the surface. So we become not so light socially when that happens, when you're dealing with your own demons and you're dealing with the demons outside and you're dealing with some unfair responsibilities and the unfair give and take of relationships. We become not so light to socially connect with others or to make friends. It jades us a little bit. But Neptune also makes us crave spiritual depth and deeper connections, which also don't come by being a social butterfly. So you want friendships and relationships that are more meaningful than purely networking and purely business-like. So there is a balance that needs to be struck between these two. We have to be, in some ways, create a healthy sense of when our boundaries are being encroached upon, because Neptune also heightens our intuition it teaches us through losses, through sometimes disappointment in people, through our boundaries being encroached, but it ultimately tells you who is for you and who is not for you. And it heightens your intuition to recognize when somebody is taking your selfless love and your open boundaries for a ride. So we have to be a little bit, when we go out there and we put ourselves out there, we have to still use those spidey vibes that Neptune is creating within us. But you have to balance it out that those spidey vibes don't start make us, doubt everybody, because sometimes those complexes start coloring every relationship we have, because we have been stung once or many times possibly. So we start having these highly charged emotions which can block the ease in relating to others. Some boundaries and partnerships which have been encroached upon in the past might have left us bitter or even scared to engage further with new people. And that's the hindrance we would have to cross. That's the personal problem we'll have to cross to go to the other side. Our complexes, our fears, our demons below the surface would talk to us, and they would show up, and they would talk us down from the stage, or they would talk us down from the platform. They would tell us that the other person doesn't want to hear you, or the people don't want to listen to what you have to say, or they're going to cheat you out of this. Some sort of hidden fear, complex issue of relating to others would come back on surface and would have to be handled. We would have to actively engage with this demon. And Jupiter now in your house of transformation will make this transition from that hurt, from that bitterness, much more sweet. You would even crave this crossover, this rebirth of sorts. Jupiter will make this a pleasant ride. But Jupiter is fully coming in your house of transformation only in 2022, not right now. So it's more easier theme for 2022, which you might right now would have to work through. Intensity of emotions will need to be slowly replaced with depth of knowledge, which we focus more on. We have to focus on what those relationships have left us with. We are more in the know. Light and dark parts of our psyche would be at war. So we could be lighter in our interactions with others with less expectations, less biases. Sometimes our obligations to others in our life with whom we have karmic ties, they come in the way of our social and aspirational goals. Your ideals, visions, friendships, social groups, they suffer because you have obligations to others. And your ideals, visions, friends, or social groups that you are trying to be part of could be at odds with your partner or the people you have obligation to. I'm not saying all these things will stop your growth. I'm telling you these are the hindrances we'll have to cross to get there. Nothing can stop you from getting there because it's part of your fate, it's part of your destiny. But these are the demons which will come to surface, and with Neptune going retrograde towards the end of this month, you will see it in a more objective way and find solutions to get over that problem. There could even be a debt, financial or spiritual or karmic, that could come in the way of you realizing your vision because you're not free in some ways. Neptune retrograde after 25th of June would bring to open over coming weeks where we have been tying ourselves too much to an obligation, to a debt. And what's that costing you? So there are no blind spots, and we can move forward to a more fair give and take in obligations. A more fair give and take in obligations and partnerships in matters related to joint finances and with our relatives and siblings, or any karmic relationships that you currently are in. Lastly, there would be question of how to create material value. After you've got through that, you'll think about how do I create material value from it all. Again, Jupiter will open the doors of opportunities to earn income from other sources. It's more a theme though of 2022. I detail this in 2022 preview video. If you want to find out how Jupiter will benefit you in 2022, you can watch that if you have not seen it before, because Jupiter will join forces with Neptune next year in your house of joint resources, where all of this will become much easier. Though on 23rd of June this month, we will see the first beam of hope there. Some amount of success on the way to 23rd of June would be seen. Either it is a support that comes from a partner, or a sponsor or a hope in the dark cloud where you see a way forward to get through this issue, to get through this personal hurdle and a solution to these internal conflicts that you're facing, so you are lighter to connect, to go after the vision, the platform, the dream you have, and towards the gain. So that's what I have for you, Leo. Good luck, and I'll see you in the next video now. Thank you.